So I'm glad to be the first presenter of a best practice because this is a project that we started last year at Rising Sun. So I'm glad to be able to come back and report to all of you the results of this project. So a little bit of background, and I'm so happy that when I see this slide now, I'm sure everybody here knows this very well because it has been very much discussed in the last 2 days. So we know how important monitoring of CML treatment is to make sure that there's a good prognosis for all our patients. And we have really learned that PCR is a very important tool to monitor patients' response to treatment. And we also know by our own experience in our own countries that we need much more efforts to increase compliance with the ELN and NCCN guidelines. Our patients are not being monitored in the way they should be monitored. So last year we engaged in what is called a participatory research project, trying to understand the challenges that advocates face in 3 regions, Africa, Asia Pacific, and Latin America, with regards to access to PCR. We worked with a total of 35 advocates from 29 different countries, and we ran 3 different focus groups. So some of you remember before of the Rising Sun, we invited anyone that was coming to volunteer to participate in a focus group. And so 10 people from Asia Pacific, some of whom are in this room, participated in the focus group with us. The objectives of this project were, 1, to understand the perspective of advocates with regard to advocacy and why they became advocates, and then to understand the barriers and opportunities to increase PCR testing. So these are two different goals. So first we did a survey online asking demographic information about advocates themselves, wanted to understand who is an advocate and what makes an advocate. And then we ran these 3 focus groups. So we had 3 groups of advocates and wanted to see if in the different regions the problems are similar or different. So we did 1 in Latin America, 1 in Africa, and 1 here and in Asia Pacific. So here's the important part, the results. So it was really interesting when you ask ourselves, why did you become an advocate? It's not a very easy question to answer because, well, we became advocates because it was what we did. I think nobody really thought, oh, today I'm going to become an advocate. But definitely there was a consensus that people report that they feel that they have something to give back and that they have a skill that can help other people. So it's that feeling of the perception that we have something to give others that makes us want to give to others. Then also in general in the 3 regions, most participants agreed that the first and most important barrier is the lack of information and knowledge from patients about PCR, the importance of PCR and PCR testing. The second really key barrier that all the advocates identified, of course, is the cost of PCR, especially when you have the guidelines saying that you have to be tested several times a year. So it was a consensus in all 3 regions that this is a very big barrier for patients cannot afford because in general, in all the 3 regions, patients are having to pay for their PCR and it's very expensive. And then participants agreed that this work cannot be done alone. And across the regions, identified physicians as the most important stakeholder in influencing access to PCR, followed by laboratories and national health authorities. So there was a lot of consensus in the regions about who should we work with to improve the access to PCR. With regards to Asia Pacific, we had a really interesting discussion, and I appreciated very much the participation of all the advocates. In the survey, the advocates had identified availability as the most important barrier to access to PCR, but in the discussion very much it was focused on the role of the physician. I think the physician was identified in Asia Pacific as someone that is, of course, a barrier if the physician is not prescribing the test or not telling you about the test, and also the key stakeholder that we should work with to improve access to PCR. The discussion in the Asia Pacific group also was a lot about the cultural norms and the relationship between the patient and the physician, where it is not very easy for a patient to speak out, to ask a question. See, if the physician says, oh, here's the result of your PCR, you're fine. It's very hard for patients to say to the physician, can you tell me my number? I think everybody feels if you go to the physician and says, was my test on the IS, and what is my log reduction? The physician will not be very happy with you and will think that you're pretending to be a doctor, right? So this was, it was a very specific conversation in the Asia Pacific region that was not so important in other regions, but I think when we think about how do we make good practices, we have to think about this relationship with physicians. And then, on the other hand, when we talk about, what can we do, definitely there was a feeling that, okay, we say physicians are an important stakeholder and they're our barrier too, but I think the group identified that there's certain physicians that would be willing to partner with patients, and are those, I think in the discussion, will identify as the up-and-coming key opinion leaders. I think the group talked about, the most senior physicians who have been doing their work for many years. It's a little bit hard to try to convince them of anything. And then there's the very junior physicians that maybe don't know enough about the latest information on treatment for CML. But there's there's a group of physicians who are going to the international conferences, who will be key opinion leaders in a few years, and that are much more willing to work with patient groups to improve access to PCR. So identifying those physicians and working with them was a very important thing viewed as what we should do in the future. And then another very interesting thing that came out of this project was the similarities among advocates in all three regions. So the group was very much very similar. The median age of people that participated was 40 years old. Most people had some kind of college education. Most people had been diagnosed between 7 and 12 years ago, and they reported that became advocates between 3 and 5 years after diagnosis. So I think that it showed similarities in our own process of being diagnosed, dealing with our own disease, and then when we are sort of settled and have gotten used to the new normal is when maybe we feel that we can give to others. So there was a very much homogeneity in how does somebody become an advocate. Most of the people have, or all of the advocates who are patients had access to treatment and anecdotally were in good health. So I think that there's something very important that comes out of that when we talk about, access to treatment, education and advocacy, that we have to start with access to treatment if we want a strong advocacy community. So if you are struggling to have access to your own treatment, it's very hard to think that you are going to do work for others. So I think that that was a very important thing. And I think that this is just an acknowledgement. A lot of people participated in this research. The reports that we put out can be downloaded from the Max Foundation website and from the What is My PCR website. So some of you have seen materials there about the What is My PCR project. And so you can download that report. It's pretty long, but it's very interesting. And I think that I hope that Rising Sun would take this forward from the learnings that we did and make access to PCR a priority for the patients in your region. So I'm happy to come back and report to all of you, and I hope that you do go and download the report, and I hope it's useful to all of you. Thank you so much.
So back to the methodology of this focus group. I know that maybe like not every one of us here have experience at running a focus group, right? So maybe Pat, you want to share a little bit on the fundamental needs to run a focus group. For example, what's the most important thing that you have to set an objective and then like question?
Right. Yeah. So a focus group is a distinct type of research project where you set up goals, obviously, that what you want to learn, but your objective is to compile people's opinions about something. So I think the hardest part of running a focus group is that you are not supposed to influence the opinions of the people participating. And so you're only just asking questions and recording not only what people are saying, but what people are not saying also. So we have somebody moderating the focus group, and then some note takers who were helping the researchers understand the physical reactions of people to the questions, and try to. So what the report is a compilation of the opinions of people, and not without judging if the ideas were good or bad. So
it's somewhat like a survey, but it's a survey happening in real time before you.
Yes, I thought, and I don't know if a few people I think are here that participated, and maybe we can hear the opinions. But I felt it was very interesting because we started discussing the problem. But then when we got to the solutions, I felt we were really building on some possible actions that we can use in the future.
So, but you have worked with 3 distinct geographical regions.
Yes.
Okay, what is the most distinct about 3 regions in relations to advocates, their characteristic, their energy, or whatever that you between these 3 regions?
I think it was very interesting to see the distinctions in the regions. Latin America is a region where in most of the countries there are very good pro-patient laws. The laws in the books really help patients, but then nobody is applying the law in the country. So advocates felt that the most important thing they can do is really learn about the laws and work with the judicial system to force the government and the insurance companies to comply with the law. So that's what the reality in Latin America. In Africa is the lack of infrastructure and the lack of information. So advocates felt, getting information out, but because the infrastructure and the government structure is very small, there was not much in between the advocates and the Minister of Health. There was the advocate, the physician, and the Minister of Health. So very close and very easy for advocates to get access to the Ministry of Health. So it's a different strategy. And in Asia Pacific, I feel that is that cultural relationship with a physician that was very distinct, something that came out of this region specifically, of how do we work with our, closer with our physicians to get better access to PCR. So, yes, Alice. Wow, the mics are tired today, this morning.
I take note of just the comment about the cultural norms that, most of the patients feel that there is a resistance from the doctors to talk more proactively about the treatment. And actually, this is not the first time I heard about this. In another survey with a breast cancer patient, they feel the same. And I'm just wondering, okay, if the group has discussed any solution to this, any suggestion on how to improve the way doctors communicate with patients?
I mean, I can only report to what the discussion was at the focus group, that there are certain physicians, and you see Dr. Harry, for instance, who is obviously very pro-patient advocate. He's very happy to be here with us. So there are, in all our countries, I think, identifying those physicians that can help and making them advisors or some kind of working group between patients and physicians together to map sort of the strategy to get better access to PCR. I don't know, Vijay, if you have
I think what you're saying is really right, and that has been the one of the major major items on the agenda of all the patient advocate groups. Now, how we have been trying to bring the physician to a common platform where the physician is part of the patient advocacy group, part of the caregiver support group, and where, that distance is not there, which is there in the consulting room. So the physician is here with us, in front of us, and talking to us and answering questions. And I think that is one way when each group here can say that they're building a special relationship with chosen physicians. And these physicians, like you said earlier, these are physicians who've been in the field of CML and management of CML, and now they are on their way to becoming key opinion leaders, especially from the Asia-Pacific region.
Right. So for instance, the hematology conferences, Alice, are a very good place where if we can get physicians and patient advocates together in a room.
About the perceptions of the physician, because I would say CML is more like a chronic disease. So you have the relationship, that will evolve over time. And probably at the beginning, when you don't know the physician, when you don't know each other, maybe you have the same feeling, but as time goes by, maybe you feel a closer relationship with the physician. Any change, in the...
Absolutely. Over the last few years, especially, we can see the difference, where there is where if the advocate leaders, patient leaders are finding themselves in a position where they can actually converse, with the physician on a one-on-one basis. And so it's like the physician coming halfway to meet the advocates and the patients, losing some of their fear. It's fear, and it's something that, they feel that the physician is kind of out of reach and that they cannot question the physician. But here we are finding physicians opening themselves to queries and to being very open to having discussions. There definitely is a change.
So for instance, some very practical things, and I don't know if there's a meeting, Asia-Pacific meeting of Hematology Society conference or something, where you can bring advocates and have the advocates have a discussion with physicians. So the advocates are relaying to physicians the experience of their members in their countries. That's one very important thing. And one of the persons that participated noticed, she said, I like going to ASH, the American Society of Hematology meeting, because when my physician sees me here, my physician sees me more as a colleague and not as a patient. So I think that helping patient leaders attend the hematology conference is a very important thing, and having a booth at the hematology conference. I think we are bringing closer physicians and patient advocates.
Yeah, time's up. I've been saying that for a long time. So I think, as a closing, we can we can say that, when the physicians see, the industry also giving respect to the patient, then the patient advocate takes on a different role in the mind of the physician also. Thank you, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you.
The steering committee decided that there is this survey that done globally involving all of us that we should know the results of. And much as I would like to present our own, the Philippines best practice, we decided that it is better that I present that survey that I've been talking about, so that I won't be presenting and two items and talking too much for this morning. So this is all about the CML Patient Adherence Survey done by the Leukemia Patient Advocates Foundation. And we asked them to be present with us today, but unfortunately they cannot come. So in behalf of Giora Sharfi, we had a series of emails in between the discussions for the survey. We would be presenting what all of us got involved with last year. So the story. We know that TKIs have revolutionized CML treatment, so people can live longer. We all know that by now. But a key decision factor is non-adherence. We all know what would happen, or supposedly we know what would happen if we will not adhere to the dosages. And the survey found out that, or before the survey was conducted, there is an assumption that there is a clear link between adherence and survival rates. So the group, the CML Advocates Network, has an objectives, 3, to provide greater understanding of patient behaviors with adherence, to explore the cultural influence and differences, and to ultimately help to support development of physician and patient tools to improve compliance. Again, physician and patient tools. So the research was done on a global reach. 2,546 respondents from all of us across the globe. Be it online, meaning we used cyber technology, or what they call paper and pen. And you would probably be surprised that on paper and pen, we will be expecting some rural areas in the Asia-Pacific region. But no, it even involves countries like France, Germany, and Italy. The survey was given out by the physicians to their patients while the patients are visiting them in their clinics, just using paper and pen. They had efforts to fill out the survey forms, while most of us did it online. There were 21 countries with more than 30 respondents. And part of the reason why Giora asked me to do it, because the Philippines got the most number of respondents for this survey. As what I had sort of discussed during the first day in the pre-meeting, I think it's very important for us to join surveys like this, because otherwise they wouldn't know. We have to tell the world what the Asia-Pacific cultural distinctions are with the rest of the world in terms of surveys. So for this one, most notably, there are 3 countries that in Asia-Pacific from Rising Sun that entered with 30 respondents or more. The other 2 being Thailand and India. Thailand with 74 and India with 40. Okay. For the other Asia-Pacific countries with fewer than 30 respondents, they group them into what they call Other Asia, the one in the red broken lines. That involves China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Nepal, Pakistan, Singapore, and Vietnam. New Zealand is on the other Australasia. All right. Now we go to the basic survey. For the adherence portion, the survey said that half of the patients surveyed have missed a dose accidentally in the last year, accidentally. but 2 in 10 have decided to miss a dose. 2 in 10. So either you decide, some of the patients decide to miss a dose, then that's the next few slides. The main reason for missing accidentally, they said, is patients forgot to take the dose. And also because there's some changes in their routine, in their daily routine, they forget to take their medicine. Now, the reasons for deciding to miss is more like because of physical symptoms, like not feeling well, so they decide not to miss, and side effects. So maybe there's so much side effects for the day that they decide to miss. While Slovenia is the most adherent country in the world, for us, for Asia Pacific, it's India and Thailand as the most adherent country in terms of dosages. And what they found out is that the lowest adherence group, age group, decided to take a break from medication, right? It's the low adherence group, those that have decided to not take their medicine. Okay, what are the influencers of adherence? They said that the low adherence group are the younger ones. Maybe it's because the older ones are more mature and they know the consequences, while the younger group, the rebellious portions, would tend not to take their medicine. And the survey said that the lower adherence group, again, those that will more likely not take their medicine, are those that have lived with the disease for a longer period than those that are newly diagnosed. Meaning, maybe they grew tired already of taking the medicine. That's why taking them for many years, these are the lower adherence group. Maybe they're tired of it. Those with the low adherence group, again, are more likely to take their medications 2 times a day or do so in the evening. So probably because they have to take it twice in a day, they forget. Or they would take it routinely in the evening and watching TV or some other stuff, then they forget. Okay, on beliefs and motivation. Now, this is revealing. They said that many countries are not actually aware of the consequences of missing a dose. And from here, we could see that for Asia Pacific, the question on if the patient would feel worse if he missed a dose, we are not actually aware, or our patient groups are not actually aware that it's bad. We're somewhere below the first half. And that is revealing. If you're a patient leader, have we done our share of informing the patients, you would feel worse if you will miss a dose. Patient associations do not seem to have an impact, okay, in terms of information on adherence. And the question they raise is, did you receive information or support from your patient association or discussion group? And it came out, 93% of those respondents from India said yes. And that is good, very good. And so with the other Asian groups, Asian countries here, like Philippines and then Thailand. Again, it's very important for us to have respondents in these kinds of surveys. You know, in surveys, they have to have at least a significant number, like 50% plus 1 for the survey to have valid results. But if you have only a few respondents, then they'll just identify you as outliers and you wouldn't see your numbers in the survey. What is the most tool that makes the patients remember in taking their medicine? The survey said it's reminders from family members. And this I would tend to agree for most of us, because in Asia, there is a strong bonding between family members, and probably this came, the 43%, the 43% probably came from most of us. Email reminders is at the bottom. So probably in Asia Pacific, we're not doing much looking at the computer, except for Facebook. And maybe we could use Facebook for this, so to increase the level of awareness. Okay, what are the recommendations that they got? Could physicians be provided with materials to remind them of their central role in adherence? They said, it is important that they are approachable and open to discussing the impact of medication on patients' lives and any possible strategies patients can employ to overcome this. I think we have done so much discussion on this, on the relationship between the patient and the physician. Particular attention should be given to more at-risk groups. These are the younger patients, those on nilotinib and on later TKIs, those who have to pay and travel to get their medication, because sometimes it's a key factor when it's something else when where to find the money to travel to get your medication. Shifting attitudes amongst those with low adherence will also help. Some form of educational campaign. The positive impact of routine could also be highlighted and could be conveyed through this campaign. We already have some powerful imagery that could be utilized in messages, like, I wouldn't forget to get dressed, same principle. I think that's a good reminder. No? If you are not forgetting to get dressed, take your medicine, just like that. Some evidence that there is future potential for tools such as smartphone apps and text messages should do it for us. Now, let me leave the presentation by what the other patient said, and maybe this you would remember as take-home messages. For example, for somebody from the Czech Republic, it is possible that if I get distracted during my breakfast, I might forget to take the medication, or I might think I already took it. From the Netherlands, no routine, because I do not have any routine in my life. I get up at different times every day and go to sleep at a different time. I go to the office at different times, eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at irregular times. My life is very messy and irregular, and therefore I sometimes forget to take my medication. From Argentina, I wouldn't advise watching TV, because if you're tired, you may fall asleep and forget the last intake. In Italy, I usually take them in the morning and at midday. The rare occasions when I forget, I take them in the evening. Nice advice. Everything is simple. I don't know any patient who wouldn't remember about his own disease. However, there might be occasions when I forget, but it is very rare. So I simply know that I have to take the medication at a set time. I hope everybody is like this from Kazakhstan.
I want to ask one question. Is anybody who do not love kids, children, please raise up your hand. I respectfully ask you to get out from this room because you might not like what I'm going to present. Okay, everybody loves children, right? Even if you have no children, you like or you love someone's children. Okay. So what more if a children affected with cancers? And public too, they love children. They just don't know how to express love and support for children with cancers. So my project is my gift to young cancer survivors, a Maximo and a Big C. You might go to a shop, or anybody could go to a shop, a bookshop, to buy a book, give to the children, and children get happy. What if we do something different? We donate a storybook, tell them an inspiring stories, and children get inspired, empowered, and we get some money. Okay, our project objectives is to increase cancer awareness, especially among the publics, parents, empower children, and their parents too, and then at least we can get some fundraising. So, we need materials, resource, potential donors to donate storybooks. And we need a medium and mechanism on how to do the project. Hopefully, we get good outcomes. Public get aware about children who need love and who need support. And hopefully, children, patients, parents, families empowered. Thank you to the Maximize Life Global Cancer Awareness Campaign, where we took this chance to do the project. And with this TMF grant seats and the books that they provide, I'll tell you how many that they give us. I told the Max Foundation, if they don't give the books, I'm not going to work with them anymore. So we find donors, potential donors, they are everywhere. On the streets, everywhere. So how do you find them? We use WhatsApps, Facebooks, and in our websites. So we do some promotions. We promote if they could be interested in donate books, and my organization will be the bridge or the link to all these patients. So from the donation, the money that we collected, we print more books, Maximo and the Big C, and we do some little creativity. We personalize book. People like to be acknowledged. So what we did, we print a small printers and we paste it inside the book, stating that the book's donated by who. So in the hope that when the children get the books, we can tell them, oh, this book comes from this person. So they will get, they know that this person loved me, this person really want to support me. So we want to reward the the donors. So we put more extra creativity by doing some feedback thing, by taking the pictures of the part of the sticker, and we email to the donors. So it is not only to increase personality of the book, but it's also to gain some trust that we did this for the donors. So we did some tracking system where we know how many books has been donated, where the books goes through. So the third thing is the medium and the mechanism. So we find the hospital, we call the doctors with children's ward or children's hospital, and run an event. This is the flyers that we did. Tell them inspiring stories from the storybooks. Give them the books. This is the book. And do some little activities. So, the outcomes. The grant seat was 120 books and some monies. From that, some monies we printed, and together with the collection of the donation, we printed more books. And in the end, we were able to print 2,800 books, which is 30 times more than what it before. So we generated about 17,000 US dollars. 304 donors. This is individual, groups, and industries. 1,842 copies. 849 children of the recipients. 12 hospitals events throughout Malaysia. We got 2 media coverage, local newspapers, public, the outcome, public awareness, especially the parents and the peoples. When we do these promotions, when we, we go to the public requesting for them to donate, they could be more aware of this project. Patients and parents get empowered. Organizing get publicity, visibility, and trust. And we get some money. Learning, we know that people want to contribute, but they don't know and they don't have the access to do the contributions. We know that they have more love, but they cannot just simply go to the ward and say to any of the children, I love you, because their parents might think you're some kind of crazy people. So the project must have a clear message, okay? So the donors can, the potential donors can understand your project, so they'll be more interested. We add some creativity and some value to increase potential donors' interest, and acknowledgement as a reward and a trust. By putting the stickers inside the book, donors will feel much trust to our organization. And awareness come fundraising. So I would like to convey my special thanks to the Max Foundation because they allow me to use this as a merchandise for Malaysian patients, volunteers, the Max Malaysia, the Max Foundation Malaysia and Max Family Societies, supporters, the doctors, nurses, healthcare providers, and children and their parents. Thank you.
I have one question. Yeah. Did the children like the story?
Of course they really like the stories. I mean, the way, because when we do it, we not only tell the stories, we do some action, we do a role play, and I think, see the pictures, someone become if you know the stories of the book, there will be someone who will become the big C, the big cat, someone will be the Maximo, the little bird. So we do some action, drama, and role play. They'll even like it.
I have a question about, so I think that what I like about the way you did the project is that, first of all, it really energized your volunteers, it seems to me, that
yes.
It really was great to bring more energy to the group. And you gain a lot of new people from the public that now knows about your organization and you have their contact.
Yeah.
So have you planned how to, based on that, for future mailings to these people? Are you keeping in touch with them? Are you doing other fundraising with them?
Okay, for the volunteers who had involved, we always had a good database so that in the future when we have potential event, we will always contact these people. Yeah, that is the thing that we can use in the future. For the time being, we have not yet planned any follow-up projects, but this project is still ongoing because not all the book has been delivered. And we're not only going to that, because we know that patients turn over, new patients will be admitted to the wards, and we even gone to the same ward or the same hospital more than once. So it's an ongoing project.
Can I just add on to the questions that Pat was asking? How do we keep in touch, continuation with the supporters? Because supporters come from individuals that we know, public that we don't know. Out of sudden, these people just say, send in a check that says, I donate for 100 books. So that those people, we have their email, we send back acknowledgement, and in that acknowledgement email, we actually encourage them to go like Max Family Facebook. So we see an increased shoot actually from that particular month that we run the campaign, and that tells us something. They do go to the page and like. So every time like we do this, whatever projects are running Max Malaysia, we put updates. So these posts reach these people and says that, hey, this organization is a serious organization. They get money, they do work. Yeah, so that is one way that we keep in touch and keep updates. Time's up?
I want to
No?
add
Okay.
2 comments, maybe. First of all is that because I was partially involved in this project as well, so we realized that there is this circle of influence and circle of affluence. So when we engage some of our peers and friends, right, we realize that these people become our connectors to the next level. And they are the one that actually help us to mobilize, the others to actually to donate more. And they are not even our volunteers, and we never told them that you are supposed to become our volunteers. So that actually triple and quadruple the effects. That's one. And secondly is that there is actually a personal message that the team has done, which that they actually took photos. They actually put stickers, who are the donates and how this book is being donated to which hospital. So what they did was that they actually took a photo of that sticker, pasted on the book, and emails to the senders that telling them that your books actually reached to the hospital and to the student itself. And the response that I get from my friends who is the second tier or third tier, right, they actually say that, wow, the website that was given by Mei Ching and the team was fantastic. They saw the faces of the children and they really like it. And to one last question was on whether the children like it. I actually had one of these books at my home. My kids actually begged me to read to them at night. So that's a testimonial. Thank you.
The development of Gleevec in 2001, CML is not an incurable disease anymore. Moreover, CML becomes similar to the disease such as diabetes and hypertension, which are not critical to a person's life if they are treated with care. Therefore, it was necessary to inspire ritual battle against the disease by proceeding these educational events, and KBCA has been using educational events as the core business. The following educational events started from 4 backgrounds and necessities, as you can see. Purpose of establishment of Korea Blood Cancer Association: to help patients recover from the disease and live with joy. Vision of KBCA, second vision among 4 visions: providing the newest medical information to support fighting the disease and recover from the disease and live happy. Necessity of changing people's perspective on the disease. The Korean Society of Hematology. In Korea, there are Korean Society of Hematology. Under the KSH, there is CML subcommittee. The relationship between the KSH and KBCA has been very good. Hospitals that are equipped with excellent facility and economic supports are important for the patients. However, the reason why we need the precise educations and informations that cover the ritual battles are: first, there are great amount of people who are fighting CML with wrong information. Second, because of the pressure that the world's leukemia gives, the patients are suffering from anxiety and depression. Third, currently, not only Gleevec, which is primary medicine, secondary medicine such as Tasigna and Sprycel are being developed continuously. Fourth, it is necessary to provide correct information to newly diagnosed patients. We absolutely need the educational events that provide precise information in order to solve these problems. Okay, then how are we going to prepare these kinds of educational events? First, a year before the events, we plan all the blood disease educational events eternally, including CML. After that, 8 or 9 months before, we set agendas with planning the program and make discussion about the sponsorship from pharmaceutical company accompanied with KSH's working party. 3 or 4 months before, we rent a place and publish the promotion material, and we promote the conference on blog and website, along with introducing the conference on KBCA monthly magazine and homepage 2 or 3 months previous. From this process, one event can be planned and created. Let's get more specific about the educational events. Themes that were proceeded in 2013 were early treatment of CML, follow the test of CML, managing the side effects of CML treatments, plan for secondary treatments of CML. After the lecture, we had a great time by having a Q&A time, which solved the curiosity and communicating and sharing the information with patients that cannot be seen often. Especially, we maximized the understanding by handing out lecture booklet. The booklet were based on the professor's PPT information. By proceeding the events steadily, 200 to 300 patients participating annually, and once they participate, they have been participating annually. The satisfaction of the professors was very high, which they cannot communicate with the patients because of the short ambulatory time generally. These comments are the participants' review on the patient's online cafe. It shows that educational events that are held by KBCA are very helpful. By reading these reviews, we are proud of ourselves and help us to work hard. And the conclusion. What we achieved from the educational events are, first, provide correct and effective information about each patient's stage of treatment. Second, inform that CML is not a life-critical disease anymore. Third, it is more similar to simple chronic disease. Fourth, relax about side effects that he or she might suffer. They are not the only person who is having those side effects. Finally, we are at the key learning part. A lot of patients who first came to participate the events has been treated with wrong information. Therefore, precise and correct information have to be given to them. Also, increasement of number of the survivors after the Gleevec was released helped the number of patients to increase continuously. Since the patients have to take Gleevec and fight with the disease for a long time, it is necessary to proceed these educational events. Finally, because the mentoring or blog that patients participate have limited knowledge and ability to transmitting information. The educational events that medical team participate and lecture are necessary. KSH and KBCA are giving out books that contain 100 questions CML patients likely to ask. CML professor comments on each question. The books were produced aiming towards patients' standard, not hard medical books. It was written to be understood easily about CMS treatment, including diagnosis, treatment, side effects, and psychology. It is not handed out randomly. If CML patients life quality research, and we give the books as a gift. With the help of KSH donating the authority of the books, it is not restricted to translate to another language and be published. Please let us know if you are interested. Thank you for listening to the presentation.
I will start with the first question. Right. Can I just know that what is the average age group of the attendees or the participants that coming to your session, this annual meeting?
We have a homepage and the CML patient's address or information. So if we hold the conference, we give the letter to introduce the conference, or.
Yeah. My question is that average age group, that whether they are older patients or they are younger patients.
Maybe older patients. Normally, older patients come.
All.
Yeah, all.
All the patients. Do you see like any particular patterns, like with teenagers or young adults or younger?
Our association focuses on the adult patients, so.
Okay. All the patients.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Do family members also come? Patients, family members also come?
Sure.
So primarily adult patients and their family members.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it's a very nice thing. You gave me a copy of the book also with the English, in English, which says what exactly the book contains, and I think that's wonderful, when we can put it down and people can. What are the levels of literacy in your country? All the patients are able to read and write?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's no problem to read or write in Korean. So everybody read the books.
Yeah. Because many patients in India cannot read. So we find it very difficult. We keep thinking of new ways to reach out to the patients who cannot read. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Manura. I'm from the Sri Lanka CML Collective. And I'm happy and privileged to be here. It was here about 2 years back that I was introduced to this concept of patient support group for CML. And I'm happy to announce that we have a very effective and growing support group in Sri Lanka. And we are going to actually present to you one of the projects that we were involved in the past year. So shall we move on then? Just before coming to the problem, I'll just let you know about the background of CML care in Sri Lanka. Now, once CML is diagnosed by physicians or clinical oncologists, it is almost always referred to further care at tertiary care government hospital level for clinical oncologists to see, and also for further investigations. However, these tertiary care government hospitals are only about few in number, about 5 totally for Sri Lanka, catering to about 20 million of population. Subsequently, if the necessity arises, these patients or members are referred to National Center of National Cancer Institute, which is the premier center catering to cancer patients in Sri Lanka, and there we have specialized care as well as dedicated oncology wards. Saying that, the continued care of the patients as well as the maintenance and daily and monthly visits are foreseen at the tertiary care government hospital level, which is a little crowded due to it being catering also to the large provincial population of the area. Herein arises our problem, which I think is shared with many Asian countries, where there is a marked lack of government financial and infrastructural support and a shortage of staff. There is also scarcity of transport services back to their homes because of the long queues after a day's wait in the queues and doing the investigation. Sometimes patients find it hard to get back to their homes. So there is also a loss of daily livelihood for some people who are daily earners. Now, this in turn, like a vicious cycle, leads to non-compliance for some people and clinic dropouts, and then it would again lead to uncontrolled disease and lead to more and more admissions, causing a strain on the resources. So this, I think, is shared by many countries in our region. This was one of our problems that we had seen and that the patients had come out with. So our objective was to find resources for the CML patients, to provide finances for traveling to these clinic visits, for investigations and family support for some people who were daily earners when attending clinics. We also, as a secondary objective, wanted to provide health education and counseling to increase awareness about CML. We discussed with our members about and the patients participating in these clinics about how to tackle this problem. What methods would they seem appropriate? And they identified that there was an existing foster parent scheme for these patients that had been established in around 2006 and had been successful for a while, but sometimes for some patients it had broken down to various reasons. So we decided to latch on to that system because as a fledgling organization we found it hard to find funding and support as it is for ourselves, and to see whether we could strengthen this. So we brainstormed on why this above program had a little deteriorated, because the above program had been directly with the CML patients and the donors. So maybe there was evidence of lack of communication between the parties, and the person who established the program previously had left the concerning hospital, so there was a leadership change, and that had caused the program to come to a sort of decline, and some personal attitudes of recipients, wherein the resources or the actual financial aid given to the patients, people attending the clinics, were somehow misappropriated. There was evidence of it being used to buy rack and something like that. So it was a rare case, but then again an insightful one. And we also highlighted the fact that these donors were not acknowledged or thanking, which I think we dwelled on in the past 2 days also. So we chose to address these issues via our organization in the following manner. So our brother organization was the Sri Lanka Cancer Society, a group of philanthropists established in Sri Lanka with the aim of helping support financially as well as supporting emotionally and counseling patients in Sri Lanka. So this is the program that had been going on, where some patients had been identified from the CML society, and they had been contacted by the Sri Lanka Cancer Society, and they had provided financials for traveling, lab investigation, and so on. So we strengthened that further by providing a cog in the wheel, as in identifying the needs further and getting the patients that had dropped out of the system again to the system and finding new foster parents. So this had initially been carried out only in the Kandy General Hospital, a central area of Sri Lanka, but we managed to involve two other hospitals, the National Cancer Institute as well as the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital, for this endeavor. So we managed to expand it a little out of its initial base. The second part of the objective was to provide health education and counseling, and we provided it by IEC material, information education material at the clinics, and creating awareness at our CML group meetings. Unfortunately, clinics are not segregated into various diseases, but are common oncology clinics to which patients attend. So we did not educate them there, but got them down subsequently, whoever possible, to CML group sessions to increase awareness on medication, side effects, and the importance of compliance. So I'm happy to say that we have 39 CML patients with foster parents to support them in this program currently. As I said, they are mainly from the Kandy Hospital, also with Anuradhapura and NCIM, National Cancer Institute. And this has actually led to their continued attendances at clinics and improved the management. The Cancer Society is very supportive and are eager to help, and we find that they are a willing partner, and we hope to get their support for further endeavors, further activities of our group as well. The patients, because of our education activities, are more aware about their conditions and often tend to share with new patients whom they meet at even their clinic visits about their own experiences and their facts and facets of their disease which they have experienced. By creating the group and having them invited for the group, we have created a feeling of support and belonging for the people, so that they experience that they are not in isolation, they are not fighting this or surviving this alone, but we as a group are together and whole, and that strengthen their will and their happiness overall. So in conclusion, I would like to state that so what we hope to do is to spread to the other parts of the country. There are several deserving patients in our other hospitals as well. We plan to branch out this endeavor with the support of the Cancer Society to get those other patients under the umbrella cover as well, and to increase our membership and to educate them further. So the key learning of our activity, as far as I thought to share, was to be proactive and to discuss with your members and find how you can overcome your obstacles or problems with the use of existing resources that you have. And maybe you would not be a highly funded organization, but you can use family, friends, and society. Already create the organizations that are in the field for help with your work in your respective organizations. These are my acknowledgements. And Dr. Sarath Wattingama is the person, the leader who started this endeavor actually in 2006. So gracious mention to him. And thank you.
I think it was a very wonderful and transparent presentation. You spoke about foster parent system. Can you elaborate a bit more on that, because I think that's very interesting.
This is a system where a particular member of our group, a particular patient who is identified to be deficient in monetary resources. They may be daily earners who have come to clinic. They may find it hard to meet the expenses of investigations, and they may find it hard to meet the expense of travel, because sometimes people have to travel about 60-70 kilometers to get to the clinics. because they are so far in between, only 5 per country. So those are the recipients. The donors are Sri Lanka Cancer Society. They are a philanthropic organization. So what was done is a person was identified for a particular patient, and he was motivated to provide financial aid to that patient in order to help him out. The practical way we did it was to get the expenses, if possible, down to numbers, as in receipts of transport, just plain bus tickets sometimes, just plain investigation receipts from outside, because sometimes the health sector inside is strained. So, and then to submit it via a representative of ours, of our collective in that hospital, to the Sri Lanka Cancer Society, so that they would know what kind of money that would be needed.
So you're like identifying individual donors who will then support the small costs, not really small, but for the donor it might be sufficient for him to pay for the transport costs of the patient or for investigations.
Yes, thinking back on it, it's a small cost. It's around $30 maybe.
Yeah. For the patient, it's a big deal,
but
for a donor, it's a small amount.
It's a daily wage earner. For a daily wage earner, it's a very helpful amount.
So it's what, one-to-one or one-to-many? So you would have one donor and...
Initially, it was a fund to many donors, but we found that sometimes, because it's a fund, not many people, it was not filled all the time, so that they couldn't provide to it. So we are now, with the Cancer Society's help, we are trying to increase the one-to-one care, the foster parent scheme as such.
Great, I mean, it's a key learning for us.
And also, Manora, I think it's wonderful. I saw the logo that you have on most of your slides, the cog in the wheel. It's a great learning for new organizations. You don't have to go out there and begin to do everything. You can be that one influential, that catalyst, which already uses existing resources in place, and you are contributing to the big picture, and then you're making a very big difference, because whatever little you're doing is something that puts something into motion.
Dr. Maro, can you just tell me exactly the mechanism? That means foster family give donation in terms of monetary, right?
Yes.
So does this money go direct to the patient, or the money go to the Sri Lanka Cancer Society, and from society go to the patient? How does that funding, monitoring mechanism?
Yes, as you said, it goes to the Sri Lanka Cancer Society, so that Sri Lanka Cancer Society writes a receipt and the donor gets it. And then from the Sri Lanka Cancer Society, they have nominated a separate bank account for the patient, and it goes to the bank account. So, so it goes directly to the patient. It doesn't it bypasses us, the monetary route bypasses us, but the authorization or sometimes the receipts go through a member of our organization to the CML Society, Cancer Society.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Drama therapy workshops, a way that we can creatively express ourselves. Now, let me just give you a glimpse of what our meetings are like. Now, this is a meeting that we had in the northern part of the country, where we had around 900 delegates coming in for this regional meeting. Okay, our country is divided into small states, about 30 of them. A new one just grew last month. The region is bifurcated as per the cultural backgrounds. So here you see a set of people with a different cultural background. This is, if you see, this is all in Punjab. It clearly shows with the turbans on. Okay, let's have a small background of the type of patients that we have. We have CML and GIST survivors in our group from across the nation. Each group, chapter, there's a different diverse background that they come in from, the different language that they speak. When Vijay said that there are people in India who come for these meetings, but they can't read and write. So communication is a tool that we have to use differently in this area. We have distinct customs, food, and clothing. So area-wise, this also changed. A glimpse of it, a type of patient, a child, and the regional glimpse, and the region. So I just put in 4 different regions that we had. So you see the way of dressing, the type of people are different, and it's more colorful. Okay, now let's do a background on the workshop that we are talking about. We all agree that cancer is something that has bonded us together. A sense of relationship has increased because of the support group. The support groups meet regularly in these cities. The city, we have a core teams which meet regularly. We are all aware of the strains that this diagnosis has brought into our lives. Each one of us need to fight the fear, the challenges that lie ahead of us, and so that we said that we should use different tools for that. And we all say that we need to share and learn from each other's skills. Okay, these support meetings that we have are normally coordinated by the Max Foundation team. Then in each of these meetings, we have these doctor sessions in the first half, and second half we use it for one or the other interactive workshops. The workshops are art therapy, compliance workshops, storytelling, volunteer training, and drama therapy workshops. Now these drama therapy workshops are done with a clear aim that they share their stories with us in rather than just talking about the story in a more creative manner. Okay, we share and learn together. Now this is where someone is sharing a story. We have this compliance workshop wherein we take feedbacks on their compliance and do a study on it. We have art therapy where we use crayons and chart papers for them to express their feelings and create artifacts. And we have drama and creative workshops. Okay, let's now go into drama therapy. The aim is to encourage the group to come together and nurture the talents that they have and to use it for self-expression. It's a very informal environment that a set of creative tools are given. It's educational that each team is educated about the other person's style. And the themes are very simple. It's on the social background and the CML lifestyle that each person is going through in his diagnosis. And compliance and relationships are concerned. We use humor. Okay, initially the theme for the drama is given to each of the group. Then the teams are separated and the teams identify who the director of that drama would be. And then they plan out, a particular person is given particular roles. The roles are segregated. 30 minutes is given where they do practice of the skit and they have to come and present the skits. The skits get ready and then they come to the stage and perform it. This is where they are planning for the skit. The skit's in progress. And we find that people who are very quiet during the interactive session, people who don't ask questions, like we in the morning, everyone, Pat did her presentation and everyone is quiet, no questions. Someone else did a presentation, no questions. But when it came to expressing themselves creatively, they had their own ways of expressing themselves creatively. So we needed to explore different people to do different type of acts. Now this was a very humorous skit that we had. And then there were big serious skits, discussion sort of things in skits. So people started expressing, and different people had different ways of expressing these things. Then we have good photo session. That's Nirmesh there. And after that, we all leave the stage. And what has happened over the years is I and Nirmesh started presenting it, and it's become a part of any Max Foundation meeting that we have, Friends of Max meeting that we have in the nation. We have to present our Bhai and Bidu skit. Without it, it goes incomplete nowadays. And it's a very funny way that this is what we did in Calcutta. Now this actually is a garbage carrying can that we used, in which I sang. And this was the 10-year celebration of GPAP in India, where I was acting like a small school boy. I had a lollipop in my hand, and okay, the outcome of it, the talents of individuals are brought out in the sessions. The barriers are broken. Across groups, everyone participates in this. Vital message of awareness and compliance is conveyed in a very, very lighter way. So serious talks given by the doctors are all conveyed to them in a very lighter manner, and they carry it back home. Confidence is built in that person when he is hand in glove with the other team member. Hidden skill of people are brought out. And a set of bonding is built up. Set of bonding that when they leave back from there, different people share their hands, join their hands, and go together. Like here, we have mixed each other in different groups from different countries sitting in different tables. So here, they're all bonded by a single reason that's bonding them, that's CML or GIST, but they're all together. And we got recognition. Like this was the first Can India Conclave. Cancer NGOs from across the nation were brought together in Bombay, and I and Nirmesh, both of us were asked to come and do a small skit there. And we got acknowledgement from, support from Viji as always, and acknowledgement from the star whom Viji was mentioning yesterday, who supports us. There's one of the leading stars of India, Salman Khan, who is there to support us for the cause. And this is the same person who signed for Maximo and supported for the Maximo cause. Yesterday, Vijay was talking about one more thing that we did. In our creative workshops that we have, we ask people to make some drawings in our art therapy. And this is what we converted from that art therapy into a beautiful cup, and with a Chai for Cancer logo that we had. This is a part of the workshop that we did, and which was converted into a beautiful mug here. And this is a mug that we specially designed by one of our survivors, with everything to do with making a tea conference is going on, everything. That's also specially created for Chai for Cancer. I just have 2 mugs with me. We can even look at an auction for these mugs. So raising funds, and we raised good funds with this. We can look at auctioning this also here. Okay, that's all that I have.
I believe India is the most film production in the world. And I am not surprised that India will maintain that position. Okay, why do you ever think of doing drama or a play? Is it because of the background? Because drama will, easily reach patient emotion?
Yeah, more to do with reaching out to patient, informal way of communication, wherein, like Vijay said, a barrier of reading and writing is there. So when we are communicating it through actions, it speaks more for itself. Rather than a person when we present things in a very lighter side, they carry that home as fine points from teachings from this meeting.
Sorry, I thought I'll add something to what he's answered. Before 2004, 2001 to 2004, these sessions were tear jerkers. People used to cry actually in the patients' meetings that we had. And it goes back to what FIFA Raman spoke. We were very emotional people. And they used to never open up. And I look at 2004 onwards, The entire patients meet, people are opening up, they're more informal, they're really more closer, more clearer, more frank, and give a lot of suggestions, problems, questions to doctors. So that's the difference I see between 2001 to 2004 and 2004 onwards, when the patient advocacy really took up in a big way.
Yeah, Pat.
Okay, my question. I have actually attended some of these meetings, and they sound extremely fun, and there's so much activity in the room, and everybody's participating, but of course it's always been in a language I cannot understand. So I wanted to see if you can give an example of one theme that might be given. What is, just for instance, you give a theme, what is that theme? What are people acting?
Okay. Just recently, about last Saturday, we had this Bombay meet, wherein we divided the entire gathering of 160 people into four groups, and we gave a theme broken down into 4 parts. Okay, it was a continuous, say a person is identified with CML. The second group had to present the same person, he going to the doctor. The third group, the same theme continues. The third group presents he being counseled by another survivor. And the fourth group saying when he goes to office, how the office team is going to support him. So there was a continuity of themes. So everyone, the first theme prepared on that theme that was given, the second, so it was a continuous theme that they had to present. We also have done on, this was about CML that we did typically this time. Otherwise what we have is, it could be any life situation. It could be boarding a railway train in a railway station and the situation there, or catching a bus late for work. So expressing some people. So we make it a point that there's something that's related to that culture and that area. Because it was in Bombay, we did with this CML workshop, wherein people were more aware of the situation there.
Can you just explain what is Bhai and Binu?
Bhai and Bidu. Okay.
I don't understand.
Okay. Bhai and Bidu, just brother. Bhai stands for brother, and Bidu stands for his companion. Okay. So there was this beautiful movie by one hero called Sanjay Dutt. He and Arshad Wasi, again we have taken this name from this movie. So there was these 2 guys who were always into fun, but helping others. They were helping others with fun. And so when we presented the first time together, someone called us Bhai and Bidu, and the legacy continued.
When they talk, they also use a very popular colloquial kind of language, which is not Hindi, not English, not Tamil, not Marathi. It's a mixture, so that, you know, whichever city they go to, or wherever we do these, you know, somehow everybody is able to understand. It's like a common language that the street person in Bombay has developed, because Bombay is like a mini India. You know, everybody from India has a place in Bombay. So that's a street lingo that they have developed, and that's how they communicate.
What I'm going to present is a CML journey of Hong Kong patients through these years. It's a roller coaster journey filled with joy as well as sorrow. It's a true account to reveal what really happened to Hong Kong, and our intention is not to criticize or complain to any business. I hope through that sharing, open and true sharing, we can make ourselves aware of what really happened to other parts of the world. And we can also, with that awareness, be able to empower ourselves to deal with the issues effectively. A very quick look at the CML landscape of Hong Kong. Currently, we have about 600 patients with 50 new diagnoses every year. In the pre-TKI era, like other places in the world, the standard therapy is interferon alpha, and BMT, bone marrow transplant. Following a very successful clinical trial across all major test centers in the United States, a new drug named SDI 571 came to Hong Kong 2000. We started the clinical trial. Well, Novartis won't call it clinical trial, they call extended access program. At that time, Hong Kong, right from the beginning and until now, that's still true, the infrastructure for support and finance is minimal. It's non-exist almost. We have no Max Foundation, no GPAP, we have no public health care insurance, and no reimbursement program of any kind. The Gleevec price for therapy is about, on the average, $250,000 Hong Kong dollars. That means in 4 years, an average patient will have to spend 1 million Hong Kong. On top of that, we have to do the twice a year molecular test, PCR, is about 5,000. Like what happened in the United States, the trial in Hong Kong was very successful. 55 patients in total participate, and a total of 22 in remission. And although the overall percentage is low, 40, but if you look at the target group of the TKI is aimed at the chronic phase, the result is higher than, the remission percentage is higher than 80%. The overall percentage is dragged down by those higher number of patients in both the accelerated phase and in the blast crisis. It turns out that Gleevec is the most cost-effective drugs to treat CML. During the clinical trial, we discovered that a very encouraging result. Gleevec can even treat those patients who fail or relapse after the bone marrow transplant. And since then, Gleevec replaces bone marrow transplant to treat all CML patients. Therefore, from that moment onward, there's no more bone marrow transplant and saving health authorities a lot of money. The average price is about $500,000 Hong Kong dollars per transplant. And on average, we are doing somewhere between 10 to 20 transplants per year. And to the health authorities, they keep on denying Gleevec, access to Gleevec, citing lack of clinical data because it's very new. It's just finished clinical trial in the States. And HA also using serious side effects as the excuse not to introduce Gleevec. Besides the patients on the trial. They insist on interferon and bone marrow transplant as the frontline therapy. And it is until the 90s of United Kingdom introduced Gleevec as the first line that it has no more excuse because it's following its previous sovereign country. But still, until that, up to that very present moment, the health authorities still exclude Gleevec from standard formulary, citing it's too expensive, but they never draw the line. What is expensive? What is not expensive? So our basic objective is very humble. Our campaign is to ensure access to TKI and Gleevec by all CML patients, regardless of their economical or financial ability. And in the year 2002, we did two important things in terms of implementation. We formed the Gleevec Concern Group, and we launched our Gleevec campaign. Well, obviously, the campaign objective I have stated earlier. And up to now, even in the present, the campaign is still going on. The picture of some of our events and actions in terms of implementation. This is the CML Day last year. And this is what we did to protest against the health authorities. Now, I want to read out the slide, the sign here. It says, it's a tragedy in modern medicine. The tragic decade, because we wasted 10 years for fighting access as a standard formula into standard formulary of health authorities, and it's still without much success. Effective life-saving drugs are ruled out of standard formulary. In terms of outcome and results, the extended access program patients, we managed to get from Novartis the free drug price for life as long as the doctor thinks that the Gleevec is effective to the patient. But only 17 of them benefits. For the rest, majority of patients, the discount is, I think, minimal. You can compare across the world. Buy 11, get 1 free. And whenever I read this figure, 11, 1, I remember India. Together, HA and Novartis come up with a closed discount scheme to patients who have been fully paying for the drug. And for those who are 3 years, 5 years, or up to 8 years, and the discount ranging from 20, 35 to 80% off. But back to the 11-1, the discount is only 4% off, okay. And back to this closed discount scheme, because it is close to the new patient. It applies to only those who have been paying the price for quite a number of years, full price. So our recent survey showed that on average, a CML patient and his family is being robbed of $1 million in 5 years because of that arrangement. And to be more specific, the average yearly TKI therapy expenses are more than 200,000 Hong Kong dollars. And in terms of the breakdown of the subsidy we are getting, less than 20%, almost close to, well, less than 20% get full subsidy. And the majority, 47% up to almost half, have to pay themselves full price. And the partial subsidy from 20 to 80% of the price of the therapy is only 35% of the population. So in short, in average, the self-paying, this self-pay is different from this. This self-pay, this line means they are paying the full price. This self-pay means those who have to pay for the drug, including subsidy, but excluding the 100% subsidy, okay? So on average, they will go broke, the family will go broke and put on social welfare. So this is a little bit more detail, but I won't go into this. So the latest arrangement from the government's subsidy is they will, excuse me, each family and patient has to spend more than 200,000 per year before they can get any subsidy. So that's the latest picture. Now, let's look at the impact on two case studies. One is the patient who have been paying the full price for 7.5 years. And he sustained a very stable qPCR results of MMR, free log reduction. But at the same time, his family and assets also gone to CMR or MR4, a 4-log reduction. CMR means complete monetary reduction. So the entire family go broke, put on social welfare, what we call comprehensive social security allowance, and they receive 100% subsidy. So how about that? Is it a blessing or curse? Case 2, a married couple. The husband, the patient, have been fully paying the full price by himself on GIVEC for several years, and when the SAM funds, which is the government subsidy, using charitable donations. When this scheme came along, they decided to ease their financial stress through a forced arrangement, what we call a fake divorce. The husband moved out from the family, lived alone to qualify. But because of the loss of contact and they don't see each other frequently enough, and maybe self-inferiority complex, the relation eventually broke up and became a real divorce. So a life is saved, a relation and a family destroyed. This is the real situation. How sad. So during the campaign, we keep on asking ourselves, a life-saving CML drug is both a blessing and a curse. And why? And we came up with two, you may say, variation. The healthcare system is definitely sick. As a government, Hong Kong is very rich, but not for the people, not for the citizens. They had a very screwed mindset. The healthcare policy is quantity and not quality driven. That means they can give away for free placebos or cheap drugs like Panadol for free. But they are sure that you can afford it. But on the other hand, the expensive lifesavers are denied. Well, similar things happen in the pharma industry, in the general trend. I'm not saying a particular business. They are greed for profit. This greed is untamed, and therefore we have skyrocketing drug prices, and patients suffer. What we also realize that CML and cancer should not be individual patients' responsibility, because it's a regional, national, global issue, because all our environments and foods are contaminated, polluted, our foods are tainted with a lot of additives, hormones, drugs, antibiotics, and insecticides. So the government should also bear the cost of public cancer therapies. And one good example is the Fukushima nuclear meltdown in 2011. It's a global threat. And also, I think the pharma business industry, the model is flawed because it's purely profit-driven. But it should not be just another business. It's what we want to emphasize. It needs ethics and social responsibility. And on the other hand, we also need some objective criteria, like health technology assessment to evaluate a reasonable drug price, make sure it's affordable and valuable to patients and sustainable to the healthcare systems. So this is not something we invented. I think it's a cost share model is more reasonable and more helpful to the patients, like government offering tax benefits to the pharma company, and maybe investment and subsidy in various aspects. Coming to that key learning, I think one of the things we learn most is from our role model, India. They think outside the box. They don't need to protest, okay? They don't need to bombard Novartis offices or headquarters with protests. Because on the technology front, they DIY the generic and also work tightly with the judicial front. They patent VNAT and deny Gleevec variants. And it helps to reduce the TKI therapy cost tenfold. But I just learned from a doctor's presentation, it's 30-fold, 30 times reduce the TKI therapy cost. And the most important thing is it saves the CML populations, not only in India, but also in the developing world. And we should be all thankful for that. And one realization I came up with is to patients. Either the health authorities or farmers should not be enemies. They are our partners. They should be. To the health authorities, we should persuade a law with them to establish effective public health insurance and some tools like HTA to justify the drug, the expensive TKI therapy. And for the relationship with pharma, we should seek support in terms of holding events, venues and funding, and in return, the patient can participate in the clinical research, like what I know is happening in Europe. So because of time of limited, I want to use one last example. It's about the first balloon to fly around the world non-stop, piloted by these two gentlemen. And why I want to use this example as a reference model for growth synergy in chemistry? Because throughout our advocacy work, we find team chemistry, team synergy is very important for the success. And one essential thing, the balloon endeavor is very similar to advocacy, because in a hot air balloon, you cannot control the direction of it. You cannot by yourself. The direction of the balloon is determined by the wind. And what we can do is only change the altitudes of the balloon. So, in other words, in patient advocacy, we can plan what to do, but we can never control the outcomes. It's so similar. So, because of time, I jump to the most important slide. And I think I wish to thank this gentleman, Dr. Drucker, on behalf of CML patients in Hong Kong and perhaps all around the world, to give us renewed hope of survival and a new life. Thank you all.